force them to sell the property and split the proceeds. So he'll get half of whatever's left. But technically, if she keeps paying on the mortgage and they eventually sell the property and he's not contributing to the mortgage, she can get reimbursed for that before it's split. So if she's paying the mortgage and the taxes and all of that for the next year and they sell the property before they split, she should get reimbursed for all of that. So, but she has to force it and make it happen.
Yep. I was gonna say, like, how could she charge him rent if he's on the deed, if he's like part owner of it?
It's specifically, I read about this, and like I said, I don't know a lot about it, but from what I read, it's specifically because she is barred from the property. Right. And yeah. I don't think it's usually a PFA. I think it's more that somebody is, I have control of the property and I'm just not letting you in, even though you own it. And since I have physical possession, you know, you'd have to like sue to get in, you know, have to get a court order. But, you know, like I said, I don't know if it was something not specific to Pennsylvania, I don't think. So I don't know if it may not conform specifically to our laws. It may be
technicality.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't know how successful she would be with that. I don't think that's the way to go anyways, you know. There are other things she could do. She could take in like she was saying, well, she may not have the means to go and hire a lawyer to get this done. Well, then what do? You got to keep paying on the mortgage. What do you do? I said, you know, you could sell the house to me. So you could sell, because there's a couple different ways of owning property. So she could sell half the house to me.
Right.
So, but it depends. So there's a couple different ways of owning property. You can own it jointly, or you can own it as tenants in common. And tenants just, it means owners, not renters, but they just call it tenants in common. So joint ownership is a joint undivided ownership. So it's not like you each own 50%. You both own it in its entirety. So it's similar to like being married. If one person passes away, joint owners, the other person automatically inherits it. It doesn't go to the probate process. No heirs get a hold of it if you own it jointly. And that's right on the deed that you're joint owners. If you own it as tenants in common, the proportions can be different. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be 50-50. It could be like, you know, I own 90%, you own 10%. And in her case, she looked it up. They're tenants in common, like 50-50. So she could actually, you know, sell me. She could do a subject to me. She could sell me half of the house and give me control of the loan, and then I could take and go after him and force him to sell it, and then take my and take my half of the equity. Like in this case, like if she wanted to do this, I hope she goes and does it herself. But potentially, if she can't go and get a lawyer, maybe she doesn't have the money to pay for a lawyer. You know, I could take and say, hey, I'll give you $1,000. You're not going to get foreclosed on. We do subject to. You're giving me, I'm giving you $1,000. You're signing over the deed, giving me power to take over the loan. Yeah. I pay on the loan, and I just take them to court. Force the sale. I take half of the proceeds. So I paid $1,000. I pay the lawyer, you know, a few grand, and maybe I get 20 grand on the back end, and I'm ahead 15. You know, whatever it is. Those are the kinds of opportunities. This may not be an opportunity for everybody.
How do you force the sale?
I need some over here.
How do you what?
Force the sale.
Force the sale. I think it's called a suit to partition. Basically, you're saying, hey, we can't get along. We own the property. Something's got to happen. We can't split it in half. The only way to split it is to sell it and split the proceeds. So the judge will say, hey,
heard of that before.
Yeah, no, because there has to be a way to resolve any kind of a dispute.
Yeah.
So.
I just thought you were going to buy half the thing and then move in on his ass.
Well, that would be the other.
Sitting on the couch when he walked in, I thought that would be.
You know, that would be another thing that you could potentially do. Those kinds of things do happen. But like I said, I was telling the story in terms of the opportunity. So when you see something like that, like I said, it's a distressed condition. The stressed condition, that's opportunity. Could be physical, could be legal, could be financial. In this case, it was legal and financial. You know. So, all right, tax sales. We'll go through the tax sale process. So, tax sales, if you don't pay your taxes for 2 years, can end up in a tax sale. Does not mean that after 2 years it automatically goes to the tax sale, because people will do things to forestall it. So, one thing they can do is get into a payment arrangement where they can try to catch up. Or, people will take and file for bankruptcy. If you're filing for bankruptcy, then they won't put it into the tax sale because it'll get taken care of as part of the bankruptcy. Some people will file for bankruptcy, get it removed from the sale, and then drop the bankruptcy filing to game the system. And I've seen people do that several times in a row until they, I guess, eventually get called on it and not allowed to do it anymore. Another game people play has to do with the way the sales work. So the first sale, so after you don't pay for 2 years, the first sale it gets put up for is called the upset sale. And I think on the handout, it probably talks about it. So on the, let me get to, all right, so the upset sale. Let's look at it. So the upset sale is conducted once a year and is the first sale where a delinquent property may end up. Yada, 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 delinquent for 2 years. The sale of the property is subject to all liens and encumbrances at the time of the sale. So the upset sale, not as popular because you're paying off the taxes, but if it's got judgments or if it has mortgages, they're still attached. So very few people were going to buy it unless they've searched the property thoroughly and they know what's owed. So when you go to
taxes, you just said it had taxes attached to it, wouldn't that already have been?
well, I said the property taxes are being taken care of here. It could have other kinds of taxes.
Well, like the mortgage, you said the mortgage would be the primary lien holder.
No,
so
but this is we're talking tax sales here.
Okay.
So mortgage is probably a less likely example because if you're not paying the taxes, you're probably not paying the mortgage. Most people are escrowing their mortgage,
but
their
the bank
taxes.
would be the primary.
Most times.
It wouldn't be the state.
Most times, but what if it's seller finance? So seller finance, you might, right. So you might be responsible for paying the taxes directly because seller finance is probably not going to escrow them, and they may not be keeping track and not realize that it's going to tax sale right away. So they may not foreclose on you. It may go up for tax sale. So that's an example. A judgment lien is probably a little more common. Other kinds of things. A normal mortgage lien would probably be relatively uncommon at the tax sale. But any kind of other liens, mechanics liens, judgments, estate tax, any other kinds of things, they're there. And at the upset sale, it all sticks. You're bidding on the property, and you're paying off the taxes on it, but anything else that's owed is still owed when you get the property. So that's why upset sales, not that many properties sell because people either don't feel confident in researching what else might be owed, or there's too much owed to make it worthwhile to buy at that sale. So, but that's the upset sale. So, so that's the upset sale. So I mentioned bankruptcies. I mentioned with the sheriff's sale, and it applies to the tax sale as well, the difficulty in identifying and notifying the owners or anybody else who has interest. So those kinds of things can also forestall the sale. If they know somebody died and they're trying to find the heirs, they may take an extra year to get it up for sale because they're going to try to figure out who they're going to notify because they're trying to make sure that everybody is notified correctly. But it's a messy process, not perfect. So, but just so you realize, just because you see a property that's, maybe you see high grass across the street and you look and they're behind 2 years, doesn't mean it's going to be up for tax sale this next time around. I've seen ones that are 7, 8, 10 years, of taxes owed and they're not up for sale yet because there's various things keeping, forestalling the effort. Yada, yada, yada.
All those taxes still accrued all those years as well, I'm assuming, correct?
Taxes, interest, it really starts to add up. So since most properties are not going to sell at the upset sale. After the upset sale, there's usually about a year period before it will end up in the judicial sale, what they call the free and clear sale. In between that time frame, you can actually still buy the property. I don't think it's done a whole lot, but it can be done. They call it a private sale. So on the sheet here it says a private sale may occur after the property has not been sold at an upset sale. Potential buyers must submit a buyer's affidavit and bid sheet. All bids must be approved by the taxing districts in which the property is located, yada yada. Private sale of property is subject to all liens and encumbrances. All private sale properties are sold without guarantee, yada yada yada. So what happens is, after the upset sale, maybe a week later, you're like, oh damn, I should have bid on that property. I didn't, that would have been a good one. You can still go in and submit a bid. And what they'll do is, I don't think it gives all the detail here, but I think they have a period of time, like after you give that bid, that they will wait to see if any more bids come in. And then they will submit those for consideration to each of the taxing bodies. So they'll send it to the borough or city, and the council will vote on it and say, oh yeah, we'll accept that. And then they send it to the school district, and the school district votes on it, and then eventually they send it to the county council. So it takes a while. It may take a few months, maybe longer. But that's the private sale process, and like the upset sale, all the liens and encumbrances still come with it. So you can buy it after the upset sale, but before the free and clear sale. But it's basically same rules as the upset sale in terms of the liens and encumbrances still sticking with it. Okay? After that, it's going to go to the free and clear sale. So they will, if you're keeping track of things and you're looking for like opportunities, if sometimes people still game the system, and owners still games the system. So I'll give you an example. An investor I talked to before, out of area investor, owned some properties up here, and they were all behind on their taxes. And I couldn't understand what he was doing at first. And he told me straight up, he said, I'm not worried about the upset sale because I put a lien on the property. So I assume he either did it with a friend or through another entity. And so maybe he owned it free and clear, but he had another LLC or he had a buddy and said, hey, I'm giving you a lien on the property. So now at the upset sale,